What's up, guys? Chris here again with another 4 Nights of the Apocalypse manga chapter review. And oh boy, this chapter has me shook. Now, I'm not gonna lie, this was another amazing chapter for 4 Nights of the Apocalypse, and I can continue to say and are continued impressed with how this series has been going so far. And this chapter just keeps escalating the stakes of this current arc and how the rest of the story is going to play out, because I'm not gonna lie, what happens in this chapter is just insanity. Like, it shook me to my core at the end of this chapter, and I am not gonna lie, I was enjoying it throughout. And Suzuki actually really threw a curveball in this chapter, so I just cannot explain how wow. As you can tell, I can't exactly bring up the right words, and I forget words now, but yeah. But anyway, before we get into the video, don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel for updates on future videos. Hit the notification bell so you can continue to get updated on every time I upload. It really does help, and it helps with the YouTube algorithm. As of right now, the 4 Nights of the Apocalypse manga reviews are doing spectacularly well, especially for a small channel like myself, averaging at about 100-150 views during the week of their upload. So it's honestly, it really helps, and I am really happy that this is going on, because I'm really loving the story, and I am glad that you guys are enjoying me covering this story as well. Without further ado, let's start the video. In the previous chapter, the battle against Ironside actually began, with Percival seemingly, his attacks doing absolutely nothing against Ironside, and it began with a full-on team assault with everyone to fight Ironside, with Donnie cowering out after seeing Ironside's just pure malice and strength just from his mere presence alone, and he books it. We see On fighting and managing to actually parry every one of Ironside's attacks, despite getting hit little by little, and even managing to land a scratch on Ironside, who, for that whole time, hadn't really looked behind him to actually land a hit, as if it was nothing to him. But he did begin to feel numbness as Nazians actually enchanted On's blade with his poison mixing to help their chances at taking down Ironside. But the chapter does end with Ironside getting ready to take things seriously. And now we begin this chapter, chapter 19, titled An Act of Evil. This chapter begins with Ironside encountering and getting ready to attack the rest of the group, saying that if you want a taste of despair that badly, I'll bring it to you, you ungrateful brats. Since he actually turns around, he then unleashes, without even twisting his hands, a bunch of shining lights around the group of On, Nazians, and Percival. As then, after noticing what's going on, On's father goes in to try and protect On as she tells him to stay back. Ironside says, "Pyre before the silence, Belfast Marget," as this is most likely the name of his magical power. As then, a large number of magical cross slashes envelop the entire group, hitting Nazians across the chest, Percival, and On and her father, blood splattering, with smoke covering the area. And just with that, we end up cutting straight to Donnie as he's running through the town, running away from all of these monsters, with him saying to himself that he's got to get out of town fast, and is trying to avoid the monsters' gaze. He's wondering what the hell is up with all these monsters, and that now they're just all over town. He begins running away as he sees all these grotesque chaos beasts just attacking citizens and forcing them into a corner. He then says, why isn't someone helping that girl, as he slams the wall in frustration, saying, "Uncle, what should I do?" Now, that's another thing that could envelop who Donnie actually is, because he might have some sort of significance to the story, like I mentioned previously, as he said, if he dies, it's all over. So, I'm curious, because, in all honesty, Donnie seems like a very huge coward at the moment, since he did kind of abandon his friends in the previous chapter. We then cut back to the town square as the smoke begins to clear, and On realizes that she had not been hit by Ironside's attack and that her father had taken the full brunt of it. She's asking why he risked his life for her, and he just says that, of course I'm going to risk my life for you, you're my daughter. As she then wonders if he's actually really hurt, we see Percival's magical golems enveloping around his wound and trying to heal him. And this is also happening to Nazians as well, as Percival is subconsciously using his golems to heal his friends, as now with everyone wondering what's going on with Percival, On looks over and they see that he is being grabbed and held up by Ironside, with him saying that his magic is only being used to protect his friends. If you're left to your own devices, you'll really become a threat in the future. But since this is actually his chance to get a clear answer out of him, Percival just says, why? Why did you kill Grandpa? As he gives the same answer that he gave to Bulgus in Chapter 1. That if there was even a slight chance of him becoming one of the Four Knights of the Apocalypse, then the choice was clear. Percival's like, that's why you killed him? And then Ironside also clarifies in something else. He said that he took something dear from me and fled. That alone is a capital offense. Now, it could be that Percival was taken from him. Maybe he actually does care about Percival, but his duty comes first. Or it could have something to do with Percival's mother, or maybe some sort of magical object or something that Ironside holds dear. So, there are a couple of things to think about when it comes to this. But just then, On goes in to try and swing for another attack, as Ironside easily blocks it and knocks her back. As On then says, now grab the coffin, as Percival uses magical power on the coffin, but then Ironside slams him to the ground, while Percival is just pleading for him to stop the ritual. Ironside then stabs Percival's arm, and wiggling around his arm, causing immense pain to Percival. Now, this is honestly some dark stuff that I did not expect to happen, this early in the series in particular. And Ironside's like, is that how you talk to your father? Everyone's trying to get him to stop. On runs up again to try and attack Ironside so he could let go of Percival, but just his mere presence, and you can tell he's pissed. We see just how insignificant On is to him as well as the rest of the group, as we see him angry says, silence girl, I'll break more than your blade next time, as On just literally drops her blade in complete and utter fear. Going to show that right now Ironside is still not using his full strength, and he is incredibly pissed at Percival and all the group for interfering. Ironside takes the sword out of Percival's hand, and that just says, what a fine night, as he then continues to stomp on Percival's face, presumably in just sheer anger, and all Nazians and On can do is just look in horror, pleading for him to stop. Ironside says that when this ritual is complete, it will make Leonis, the present thorn in my side, crumble. So, again, Leonis is incredibly important for this arc and the story right now, so I'm very curious to see what happens next. But then, as he says, and when I take care of you, the Four Knights of the Apocalypse will never form a complete group. We then see that Percival's magic is still trying to heal him. His magic golems are still trying to heal all of his wounds, but Ironside continues to stomp on his broken and pierced hand, breaking it even more. As he then says, such odd comical magic, and that it's suitable to a failure like him, as he raises the sword in the air. Nazian and On, with tears in their eyes, beg him to stop, as he then slashes his sword straight through Percival, with Percival's last thing just saying, Grandpa, as we see for a whole page, Percival as a lifeless husk, with Ironside's sword pierced straight through his chest. And I'm not gonna lie, this gave me full-on Death of Meliodas vibes from the Seven Deadly Sins. For those of you that remember, when Meliodas fought all 10 of the commandments at the exact same time, and the fight ended with him getting pierced through the chest and dying from Estarossa, hitting and killing him through all 7 of his hearts. This really made my stomach sink. I was shocked that this early in the series we were gonna have the main character essentially meet death, similar to Meliodas. Now, is Percival actually going to die in this series right this early? No, he's one of the title characters, he's the main protagonist, he's not going to die. But still, the fact that we had a death scene like this, and such a brutal one at that, so early on in the series goes to show what kind of tone Nakaba is going to show us in this series to go through from this point forward. And yeah, I am just shocked at the brutality of this chapter, because right after we see this, as Nanatsu just says that he failed to do anything for Percival after what essentially he basically saved Nazian's life and his father's life. As On also in tears just says that this is just too much. Percival's magical golems just begin to fade away as the chapter ends with Ironside still in the possession of the coffin and a bunch of chaos creatures roaming around. Just says, Now, my chaotic dead, massacre the residents of Sistana. We must complete the ritual. As the chapter ends. Oh, man. I did not expect this arc to get so dark, so serious, so soon. And I gotta say, I do kind of like that we're getting into some serious aspects of the story, but still, I can't believe we basically got Percival killed within the first 20 chapters of the story. I mean, we could have seen him, like, he survived Ironside's attack in chapter 1, but for all we know, Ironside was holding back against Percival for just being a kid, and Percival was not healed. Now, one thing that did come to mind was actually something that I believe was either a comment in a previous video, or someone saying this in the 7 Deadly Sins or Four Knights of the Apocalypse subreddit, where Percival, since he represents the Knight of Death, it's possible that he might be able to come back to life stronger than ever, since he might have died in chapter 1, but then quickly came back to life due to how his wounds were. Now, that's honestly very possible, and if all 4 knights have some sort of ability tied to their specific title, then maybe, yes, Percival can in fact die multiple times, but he can come back to life. But I have to say that this has to have some sort of drawback for Percival, or something, because when we had something like this from Meliodas, the whole thing about his curse was that whenever he died, he'd come back to life, but he'd lose more and more of his emotions. Now, this is particularly a fake-out death for Percival, it's gotta be. The impact is still very strong, but I still want to know what's gonna happen next, because this is still very early on in the series, and how Percival can come back to life and what drawbacks or consequences this could have for him is beyond me. But yeah, that's how this chapter ends, and there's just way too much to think about. I'm not going to just ramble on for the rest of this video. Percival's death in this chapter was just wow. Just wow. But there's still some unanswered questions. For instance, what's Sin up to? What's he been doing since everyone was fighting Ironside to try and get the coffin? What's up with Donnie being a coward? Is he really just being a coward, or is him dying actually going to have some sort of significant effect on the rest of the story? And if this is something that the Knights of Camelot are trying to go after, we're just not entirely sure. But yeah, another great chapter, Four Knights of the Apocalypse. This was a huge tone shift, much darker and much more brutal than I was expecting, and much more one-sided than I was really hoping to see. But yeah, another great chapter for Four Knights of the Apocalypse. I'm very curious to see how our group is going to get out of this. How is Percival going to come back to life? Is he actually really dead, or is he just in like a death-like state or a comatose state until he heals back up? I'm not entirely sure. I really hope that Sin's plan that he's been working on behind the scenes as all this is going on is actually going to come into fruition and save everyone. And I honestly do kind of hope that maybe we get some sort of appearance from a previous character from the 7 Deadly Sins to help out the group and save them and possibly force Ironside back. I see that happening, as no one in our group seems to be strong enough to deal with a knight on Ironside's caliber. Of course, there's also the wild card of Pelgard, who seemingly, unlike the rest of the knights, wanted to take Percival with him and make him his apprentice. So maybe Pelgard will show up and just force Ironside to abandon what's going on now in favor of seeing how strong Percival can get. I mean, that's honestly what my opinion was of Pelgard when I first got to him and his encounter with Ironside previously. But again, all this is just speculation and all up in the air. But yeah, that's going to be it for this video. What did you guys think of this chapter of the Four Knights of the Apocalypse? What do you think of Percival's very early death? And what is the thing that Ironside, in fact, had taken from him? The thing that he held most dear? What do you think is up with Donnie? And what do you think Sin's plan actually is? And once again, do you think a member of the 7 Deadly Sins series is going to make an appearance in this arc or in a future arc before reaching Leonis? Let me know in the comments down below, and don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe to the channel to help show YouTube's algorithm that my content is being watched by people and people actually like these videos that I am making. And without further ado, I appreciate you viewing, and I hope you all have an awesome day.